Good afternoon and welcome to episode 2 of Plausible Politics. I am your host, Zak Bauer. I hope you are having a fantastic weekend. It is Sunday. I have some very exciting things to talk about. First, make sure you guys go follow me on Twitter at ZE_Bauer, Bauer, so you can get all the latest updates on this podcast and the articles that I write. So, what are we discussing today? Well, first we have Trump's role in the future of the GOP. Then we will be talking a little bit about religion, and then I'm going to add 2 segments that I'm going to be doing every week from now on, which I'm going to start off with on this episode. That'll be a book recommendation and the quote of the week. So first off, we do have Trump's role in the future of the GOP. Now, I was having this discussion with a few of my colleagues in the conservative movement, and we all have a pretty good consensus on Trump doesn't govern really as a conservative. His policies end up being conservative, but he governs more as a populist. So that got me thinking, why was he elected? What did we elect him there for? I personally think that his greatest role, what he will be remembered for, is getting rid of political correctness in the world of politics. Political correctness has been suffocating the GOP and the conservative movement for years. It is a weapon used by the left to silence us. And it's very effective because, you think about the way conservatives act. We operate in a world of truth, of cold, hard truth often. And truth is not something people want to hear. So you got to soften this blow. I am actually talking about this in a recent column that I'm writing right now about how the left is the masters of euphemism. No, euphemisms like pro-life, pro-choice, common sense gun reform, things like that hide what's really going on. They aren't saying that they are pro-abortion. They aren't saying that they're pro-gun ban or pro-gun registry or what have you. And they do this because it's not politically savvy to do so. And political correctness is their weapon to ensure that nobody traffics in truth. Or in total truth, at least. We have to couch everything that we say in this more digestible things so that we're told so that minorities can handle it, like microaggressions. That's ridiculous. And that is what I think Trump's role and what he's going to be remembered for is taking this wet towel, as Andrew Klavan calls it, of political correctness off of our faces. It's ridiculous that we have to hide everything in something that isn't really true. And that is what Trump will be remembered for. That's his main role for me. He's done great things. He's got Neil Gorsuch in there. That was amazing. Tax bill, huge win for us. But right now, those are relatively short-term things that could be reversed. We could get another Supreme Court justice nominated by a Democrat in the next election. And that would maybe turn the tides. Who knows what happens in the midterms? We could lose the majority of Congress and lose that tax reform bill. But political correctness will no longer be the weapon it has been for the past 8 years. I say 8 years because Obama used political correctness as his weapon for his ascension to the presidency. And I think that Trump is a godsend. Conservatives were afraid that he was going to be too rash and too just violent in his words, and we thought he wouldn't think, but in a way that's what we needed. I really think that's what we needed at a time when it felt like we couldn't speak the truth. So what's his next role? He's got those wet towel of political correctness off of our heads. So what now? Why did he really win? Sure, it's kind of a tribalist thing. We're happy that we're pushing back against political correctness. What else did he do? What else is he so good at? He's tremendous at exciting voters. He made people want to go out and vote for him. Mitt Romney did not make people want to go out and vote for him. And neither did John McCain. They were both these milquetoast candidates that we really could have gone either way on. Didn't matter. Not here. Not with Trump. People were excited to get someone like him in office. He excited voters, and hopefully he can excite them into the midterms. We might be able to control the House and the Senate. Keep Congress under Republican control. That'd be fantastic. If he wins his presidential election, he could govern extremely conservatively and do a lot of things that he will be remembered for. But he excites the voters like someone I have not seen before. Certainly in the Republican Party. Obama did a fantastic job of bringing out the black vote, the black community vote, and he was amazing. He was a great orator. That was part of the reason that he was elected. He was a fantastic speaker, and I think Trump has that quality. He excites people. He makes people want to put him in charge. That's what's so important. That's something that we have lacked in a Republican candidate for years, decades maybe. And it was very exciting to go out and watch people cast their votes for him. To watch people be excited to have someone like him in the presidency. It was really amazing. It really was. So that was a fantastic job by Trump. Next, something else I think he is doing right now, he's almost already accomplished it, in my opinion, is that he has won or is winning the culture war. This goes hand in hand with political correctness. Republicans and the GOP and conservatism have been losing the culture war for decades. We have been being pushed out of media, being pushed out of academia, losing our foot with liberal professors and movies, ridiculous political correctness movies, social justice warriors. That is just unbelievable. We have been losing the culture war for years. For as long as I've been alive, we've been losing the culture war. And now, finally, the tides are starting to turn. How do we know the tides are starting to turn? Well, something like Roseanne. Roseanne is a fantastic example of how we're winning the culture war. That's all Trump. Trump's the only reason that a TV show like Roseanne is back on air. It's not because they have fantastic ratings. Nobody knew how they were going to do. Even if they would have fantastic ratings, it was really a toss-up as whether ABC was even going to bring them back. Who knew? They were dangerous. They weren't politically correct. They were Trump supporters. And socially, they don't seem to be conservative. But the thing that is such a sign that the tides are turning is that conservatives are being given a seat at the table in sitcoms, in popular sitcoms, and they are not being shown as blundering idiots. Tim Allen's Last Man Standing is being considered for renewal because of the success of Roseanne. That was a conservative TV show, one that I love. I still watch reruns of it, and I watched it when it was on. It's fantastic. It's hilarious, and it is not biased towards conservatism at all. It has a lot of themes of leftism, and it brings on characters from every side of the aisle and does it in a very humorous way, but that got taken off of air in 2017, I believe. And now it's being considered to be brought back because of Roseanne's success. We actually might be winning this culture war. We might have something extremely important going here. That is something that is so surprising for me with Trump. I wasn't sure if he was going to be able to win the culture war. And that's really what 2016 was. It was a culture war. We won the election, and we have been winning that war ever since. And that is truly amazing. Truly something that I don't really think anybody expected or even gave him a chance to win. Now, I'm sure there's people out there, but not many that I know, that's for sure. And finally, he has one final role in the future of the GOP, and that is to pave the way for conservative policy. So he's taken off the wet towel of political correctness. He's excited voters, and he has won the culture war. Finally, that will end in conservative policy being passed. That is what he is going to do. He is clearing the obstacles that the GOP has been letting the left throw in their way for decades. He is finally getting that under control. If we, as conservatives, can stop letting the left frame the argument in terms of morality and start framing it in terms of policy, good policy, if elections were won on good policy, the Republicans would never lose. That's just a simple fact. The Democrats have not really sponsored any good policy of note that I can remember, and certainly overall they're not superior in writing policy, especially in my opinion, at least in the opinion of most people. But we seem to have this idea that they are more virtuous than us, that they have the answers when it comes to minorities and how we treat the poor and women and the black community, the Hispanic community. If we can win back that it's not an ethnic political scene, a political race, then the GOP will win. The GOP will take Congress over the next few decades and the presidency by storm, and that is where we can win with those conservative policies. When we can get someone like a Ted Cruz in office, or a Rand Paul, or maybe, who knows, hopefully a Ben Shapiro, and we get those type of people in there and we get our conservative policy that we want. But right now we need Trump to get all these obstacles out of the way for the GOP. So next up, we have religion. This is something I was very excited to talk about. Last week was Easter. Spent a lot of time with my family, and I had a blast. And it got me thinking a lot about religion. And I wrote a paper about a few months ago on the role of religion in society. And I wrote it as someone who's not particularly religious. I haven't been religious in the sense that I go to church for years. And so I always wondered, what's the difference between me and someone who doesn't go to church? And I thought of this, and I think it's truly, what the difference is for me at least, is that there's a fundamental difference between religious and virtuous. And I think that is something that people don't see, in that you can act virtuous without being religious. So me not being religious in the fact that I go to church, but being virtuous in the fact that I act like a good person, just using myself as an example, is more important than being religious. And I hold that to be true. That's not the idea of some people, and I could be completely wrong. But the idea of being religious and virtuous are two totally separate things. And so this is why it perplexed me so much as to why I wasn't religious. I actually went to a private school, a private Catholic school, where I went to church every week during the school week, not including Sunday. And I was extremely religious then, but I don't think I was virtuous. And so I grew up in a place with a heavy influence from religion and God in general. But over the years, my generation as a whole is basically a godless generation. It is almost like weaponized secularism, in the fact that it's not good secularism. Something that I uncovered, and I was researching this a while back, and that was the separation between church and state. And so people always use this, we have to separate church and state, we have to separate church and state. Well, I didn't understand totally where that came from. And so I did my own research in it, and it was from a letter to the Danbury Baptist Association Church from Thomas Jefferson. And in the letter, he explains that the separation of church and state is actually beneficial for the church. You don't want the government getting involved in your religion. In England, at the time of the Revolution, and throughout its history, it had a national church. Whether it was just the Roman Catholic Church or what ended up turning into the English Church, it always had a state-sponsored religion. And Thomas Jefferson didn't believe that that was good for the government or the religion itself. So when people talk about the separation of church and state, it's important to remember that the separation of church and state was put in not only to protect the government from the influence of religion, which is what it's read as for most people, but to protect religion from the influence of the government. And I think that's something that's been missing from the debate, that we've been pulling religion out of everything we can in the name of separation of church and state. But in fact, it is the state and the government that is just as dangerous to religion, if not more dangerous than religion is to the government. That is something that I found incredibly interesting, that Thomas Jefferson saw the separation of church and state as equally, if not more, a protection of religion than he did see it as a protection of the government. And finally, I want to end. This is a short episode. I know I've been recording for 16 minutes, and I'm going to start my next two segments, which I'll be going on weekly. And I'm going to start off with a book recommendation. This is something that I'm getting in the mail very soon, and it's along with another book. I'm getting two books in the mail in the upcoming week, and it'll be The Rational Bible, which is an explaining of Exodus by Dennis Prager, who is an extreme influence on me, and that's going to be my book recommendation. I think everybody should go out and read The Rational Bible by Dennis Prager. He's extremely intelligent when it comes to religious arguments in politics and religious arguments in any aspect of your life. He has an insight like I have never seen before, a nearly encyclopedic knowledge of Judeo-Christian values and beliefs and the history of them. And I think that everybody should go out and pick up a copy of The Rational Bible. I really think it'll be a fantastic book. It could change your life. That's what he says its purpose is for, but he's the author, so who knows if we can really trust him. And also, he is also featured in my quote of the week. When I was looking in to see if I should actually buy this book, I was watching one of his fireside chats, which he does weekly, where he kind of explains and goes into, he has opening thoughts, and in this particular one, he talked about this book, and he talked about how someone said to him that science is going to be the replacement for religion. And he said something that I think will gain a lot of traction later in his life and maybe after he dies. But I think it was very interesting. He said, the Bible teaches you what is right and what is wrong. Science only teaches you what is. Science can never be a replacement for the Bible. Can never be a replacement for religion. Science is great. You cannot find a cure for cancer in the Bible, but you cannot figure out how to act morally within science. That's what I'm going to leave you guys with today. Come back next week, next Sunday, for the episode 3. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at ZE_Bauer, and be on the lookout for my article coming out on Monday. That'll be tomorrow when you guys hear this podcast. It's titled The Modern Left, Masters of Euphemism. Thank you for listening. I'm Zak Bauer, and I'm signing off.